now, and all yours. Get started.
Thank you. Thank you, Sadia. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Uh, I will start sharing my screen if no one has a problem with it. I have a presentation here, so everyone can see my screen, yes? Yeah?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Yes, we
Thank
can
you.
all see it very well.
Just 1 second, Ramish. Just be everyone write down your name, phone number, email address, and other one or two small questions that I have because see, not everybody writing over there, so we need to keep this attendance for our records. Thank you. Sorry, Ramish. Go ahead.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Take your time. Um, when I came up with the topic of chronic pain management, uh, given my background in medicine and mental health, I was trying to gather all the information I had, which wasn't very comprehensive in that regard. So I went to research about the topic a little bit. I have gathered all the references that I went through in the last 2-3 weeks about chronic pain management. By the end of this session, I'll provide a comprehensive elaborated model of that all those references, and it would serve as a self guide for everyone who is experiencing chronic pain or has someone in the family or friend circle who is experiencing chronic pain. So I will give that. They would go through it, and for and a specific high for everyone who will be watching our presentation later. So I would go through a framework of what we'd be doing today in an hour that I'll be entirely talking. I hope it doesn't get boring on the way. First, that deem very important in this topic would be a little bit pain education. So I will start with a few definitions. So we will define everything accordingly. There will be some terminology coming up on the way, and I hope it doesn't get boring. But I will try to elaborate um, every terminology that comes up, and you can ask questions on the way. The second goal would be I'll talk about a different model. There are two different models that historically has been used for pain management. We can also say it as an approach. So the first one would be the biomedical model, with the version that we call the medicalized version of managing pain. And it comes from a specific understanding that I will elaborate on that more. And then the approach that I have taken and try to bring this framework into consideration, and that we call it the biopsychosocial model or approach. It gives a holistic approach to pain, to the term chronic pain and its management, and how to deal with a situation like chronic pain. But it's also based on the first part that I will go based on the definitions. So once we have a pain education, we know what is pain, what are the differences, what are the misconceptions. Then we will have a look on different models and approaches on pain. So that would be my second goal throughout this presentation. And one thing that I will keep constant during this time would be focusing on a pain-free mindset. I actually wanted to name the entire presentation the pain-free mindset. Um, um, because I want to go to throughout the presentation. I will try to go through a comparative analysis of what has been done in the past, what is being done at present, and what are our prospects, and what are some of the the research that has is scientifically proven, but it's not yet mainstream and health institutions in major countries, and why aren't they being supported by specific insurance companies, whether it is a public insurance like Canadian system or UK system, or a private health insurance system like the US and other countries. So I will keep that approach constant throughout the presentation. So this would be my goal, to provide a pain education, tell you about different approaches, compare them, and and try to create a mindset to understand how to deal with pain accordingly. Mm. So coming to definitions, what is pain? Uh, Basically, evolutionarily, we have pain as a protective measure, if to survive, to protect our body. If there is something wrong with our body, there has to be a signal to tell us to take care of yourself, protect yourself from this harmful situation. So basically, pain is something that evolved in every being, is specifically with our species, to protect us. The way we have all these things in us that has protected us throughout history, pain is one of the main things. You use it on daily basis. If the water is a little bit too hot while you are taking a shower, or you're cleaning yourself, or using it for cooking, if it's a little bit hot, so you will feel pain there. So you will remove your hand, adjust it accordingly. Or if you're using a tool, then pain would give that signal to your body and brain that protect yourself. So basically, pain is actually what we need. Give a good example to understand how important pain is as a survival instrument in our body is to look at people who has diabetes for a very long time. So they lose the sensation in their skin. So those that their sensitivity towards pain gets lower, and they don't know what's happening there. So they start losing that protective measure, and at some point it comes to a point that there are a lot of interventions that needs to be done to protect the other parts of the body. So basically, pain is a survival tool. We have to have it. It's very important. But today we are not talking about that pain. Today we are talking about chronic pain. So if we are talking about something chronic, chronic is a comparative terminology used towards acute. So there's something acute that we have something chronic instead. If we have a day, then we have a night. We only know night because there is a day. There is the absence of light that we know about the day. So chronic is based on a time period. If there is pain for 3 months at most, so you can still call it acute. But if it goes on for more than 12 weeks or 3 months, then it turns into a chronic situation. So by now we know pain, we know chronic. So what is chronic pain? Then I want to tell you something about this misconception of pain and nociception. So nociception would be um, pretty new terminology for anyone hearing right now. I'll try to tell you what does it mean. So basically, nociception is when there is harm, when there is injury to any tissue, to mostly skin, but any organ or body part. If there is harm, if there is injury, if there is something going wrong on a structural basis, on a physical basis, the pain that I was talking about earlier when I was defining pain as a protective measure, so that would actually be nociception. So that would be the proper term to use for situations like that, for structural um, injury to any body part. So that would be nociception. But pain is something much, much bigger. So not every nociception can be called a pain, but not every pain is nociception. So this is the misconception. And the health system all around the world, or at least, and in the current Western health systems, the mainstream care would be devoted towards nociception, not pain, because pain is a much broader term. When I'm coming to mind-body relationship, I will elaborate on pain more, so you would understand. But by now, just know that not every nociception is a pain, but not every pain that we feel is not a nociception, because the mind has some experiences towards pain, and it sometimes pain is defined differently. There is no structural pain available, there's no structural harm or injury available, but we still can feel pain. We can still feel pain. There are so many examples. There's so many examples. I will keep them for later during the presentation. But to give you an elaborate idea of the difference between pain and nociception, and the misconception that we have is, so there is this researcher who has been researching pain. He is a professor in Australian university. I was reading one of his articles. So, and at the start of his article, he said, "So I was walking in a park, in a dense park, one day, and I feel a small pain in my uh, foot, leg somewhere, some area." He says in tibial bone, probably that. It's the smallest thing. I don't care about it. But I then a few moments later, I feel a little bit more, and I see what's going on there, and there is around. I see a snake. Oh, now I know he lives in Australia, so there is a lot of snakes probably. He says, "Oh, a snake bit me." So he takes himself to the emergency area. So there is all these approaches and treatments, interventions done for him. He's okay. But he said the amount of pain I started to feel after that specific time that I saw the snake was too much. Then he says, the time goes by, I keep on exercising, going for a run in that park. And one other day, I feel another same kind of sting in my foot, in my leg, that area, and I panic. And I panic, and I feel the same pain, the same intensity of pain. And I know it's another snake bite. I'm going to die. Everything comes up so much bigger. The intensity is to a certain level that I can't take it. I call emergency, everyone saying goodbye, I'm going to die, whatever. And then I realize it's not a snake. I can't find anything. It's just a small pinch from something structural there. So what is the take from this example? The example is the predictive ability of our brain. If we have gone through that situation the first time, there's a bigger sensation there, although there is no structural pain, although there is no structural harm or injury whatsoever. So this time it's not nociception. The first time when there was a snake bite, that could be called a nociception. The second time, it's not that the person is not feeling that pain. There is pain, but it's not nociception. There is no injury there. There's no harm to any tissue or body part there. That's just the predictive ability of the mind. So that brings us to the mind-body relationship. So today in this presentation, I will try to focus on our mind-body relationship. So what I mean by mind-body relationship, actually, all the interventions that we have towards pain comes from the period in the 1700s in the Western philosophy. A French philosopher called René Descartes, you have heard his name, came up with a model for pain for the first time, and that's called the Cartesian model. So before the Cartesian model, Descartes went about to say that we have a duality. So he says we are dual organisms. We have a separate body and we have a separate spiritual mind mental health situation. So he says that we are dual organisms. We are separate. Our mind and spiritual situation is very different from our physical body. So that brings us to his model of Cartesian model, which is a pain model. He says that the idea is when there is a structural injury or harm to some body part, so there is all these wirings, nerves that takes that signal to our brain, and our brain interprets it as pain. So it creates a very strict framework for understanding pain, and that's what we still are sticking to. I'm not saying that whatever is the biomedical approach is doing, it's not working or it's not good. It's just I'm telling it's not inclusive enough. The all the progress in the medical field has been tremendous. It has saved millions of lives, but sometimes it just the lens that sees things through, and it's not very inclusive, and it still sees towards that nociception situation. So if there's someone who says I have pain, and we still think, oh, it has to be cured, it has to be mm, the person has to go through all these interventions, like either the situation should be cut, that body part should be cut, or numbed, or removed, or done some intervention to stop that signal from that is taking that pain to the mind. But in the last 15 to 20 years, I would say the research in the scientific milieu of pain has shown something entirely different. It says, although it hasn't been very much mainstream, but what I saw, what I have read throughout my research about chronic pain management shows that I have learned one thing is that it's not separate. That dualism idea is wrong entirely. It's just one organism, and it's so much intricate and interconnected and interrelated that sometimes there is pain and we are feeling it and we are not feeling it. So it's a very complicated situation. So what I want to tell is it's just one organism, and it's a multifactorial complicated situation. So that's what we will be talking about today. If we are done with the definitions and no one has any questions, I would give you an overview of the statistics around the world. I'll specifically focus on Canada stats and UK, probably because some of my references came from the NHS. By now, we know that there is not a lot of infectious and communicable disease around. We have not waterborne disease, not a lot of them. We have overcome the medical field has overcome majority of that. Today, the biggest epidemics, once after COVID, we could say that the biggest would be the chronic situations, and one of these chronic debilitating situations that human beings are suffering right now all around the world is chronic pain. So, for example, given in Canada, it's around 1 in 5 Canadians live with chronic pain once throughout their lives. So it's like around 8 million people in Canada, just in Canada. And the problem with chronic pain is it has direct and indirect costs to the society in that country. So one is pain is debilitating, and there is the loss of productivity with it. The second one is the cost that it brings to it. For example, in 2019, around up to $40 billion was the cost of direct and indirect cost of chronic pain to only Canada. So the direct costs would be the health interventions that people go through, and the indirect costs would be the loss of productivity, the payments of the insurance cover, and all the EI that the after the loss of productivity, and it's double on the economy. So another situation, I'll give you another stat about UK, which is I in one book by one pain researcher in the NHS said that 43% in UK of the disability claims is from chronic pain, actually. So with that gives us a rough estimation of how many people would suffer from chronic pain in the world, given that it's an 8 billion population. So it would go to around 1.5 billion people going through chronic pain once in their lives. So this number gives us the idea that its chronic pain has reached to an epidemic level. So we are dealing with an epidemic. So in one of these references I read that the number of people who are experiencing chronic pain has surpassed diabetes, strokes, and heart diseases combined. Although you would say that, oh, all these other things that you mentioned are they have a mortality rate. It will kill people. They are emergent situations. I know that. I'm not just focusing away from that. I just want to say that chronic pain is debilitating. That all the hours of productivity lost, all the disability costs, everything adds up, and it turns into an epidemic situation. So I talked about two models. One is, I say, the biomedical model, the mainstream approach towards pain treatment. So if you feel pain, if you start feeling pain, whatever situation it is, if it's something going wrong in the body and you feel pain somewhere to a level that you need to do something about it. At some point, pain reaches to a certain level in our bodies that you say, okay, I have to do something about this pain. It's killing me. So what we would do, this is the mainstream pathway that we take. We go to the drugstore and we look at the over-the-counter medications. On over-the-counter medications, we would have all this first step of medications that we called NSAIDs. So NSAIDs are the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. For example, this Tylenol that we are using is acetaminophen, paracetamol. So we use it in different strengths. Then there is ibuprofen, and there is a mixture of paracetamol and ibuprofen over the counter that we get. So this would be the first line. That if you're feeling pain from a headache to a toothache to a pain in your hand, any part of your body, it will take you to a drugstore. And right now, in the situation that we live in, I think this would tell you something about pain. Go to your medicine cabinet. Everyone has a medicine cabinet at home, yes? In that medicine cabinet, you will always find this Tylenol or ibuprofen. Everyone has it at home. So that is over-the-counter medications. That's the first line that we do. Sometimes that doesn't help with pain. So what we do, we go to our general practitioners, our family doctor. That's what I'm talking about. Or a doctor that you can get an appointment to a medical professional, a general practitioner, a GP. So when you go to a GP, the GP will go, okay, let me inspect. You will inspect, see the area, what's going on, and he will come to a conclusion. And sometimes he will give stronger pain medications. The pain medications that aren't available over the counter, it will still be non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, for example, diclofenac or something in that milieu. Same family of medications, which are a little bit stronger and you cannot find over the counter. You can only get with a prescription. So stronger pain medications. Or sometimes the GP will refer you to physiotherapy. So the physiotherapist will do a little bit of exercises, a few maneuvers, and then you will go home. Sometimes what happens is the pain doesn't go away. You still have a pain. You have gone through 2, 3 weeks. There's still pain. So then you go to the GP again. Then the GP will send you to a specialist to take an X-ray and an MRI or all these imaging situations. So this would be another step in the conventional pathway of pain treatment or interventions for pain. So after that X-ray or MRI, there's two ways, two options you have there. The specialist or would say the radiologist say, oh, there is a bulging in here in the disc prolapse. There is this joint that there's a tendon that's not doing there, and that's not. There's something wrong. Or sometimes no, there's nothing wrong. Go take your pain medications, and that's it. Or if there is some structural dysmorphia at that situation, then you will be referred to a surgeon. The surgeon now, the other step, another step towards this conventional treatment is the surgeon will give you either injections. Those injections would be used for nerve blocks. Sometimes those injections would be steroids. That's why when I was talking about pain medications, it was called non-steroidal. So now they will use steroidals for to reduce inflammation. And sometimes people will undergo surgery. There is something wrong, there's a disc prolapse, you need a surgery. So the surgeon will decide that you need one of these interventions, an injection or a surgery. Now, some people will still have pain after this, after these injections, getting injections for a long time, every 2, 3 months. And then after the surgery, there's still pain. And now, if there is still pain, that person is still perceiving pain, still pain is there. So now we say the person has chronic pain. So then that person is referred to a pain clinic based on its availability in that country, on that area, on that province or state. So to tell you an overview, to give you an overview of what is happening in the conventional pathway of pain treatment is 2 out of every 5 people who goes through this journey ends up with chronic pain. So if someone entered the first step of over-the-counter medication for pain, there's a 20% chance that they will go through to chronic pain. So this gives you an overall idea of what kind of situation we are dealing in the society. So what today I will focus on is that if this conventional approach is not working, with this conventional approach, I told you it's based on the biomedical model. So if this is not working, 2 out of 5 people are just going through chronic pain when they enter the first step. So we need an integrated approach. So by an integrated approach, I have come up with these 7 things that give us 7 steps actually, or we can say 5 more alternatives. So if we integrate them, there will be a 7-step mindset plan. So today I will be talking about a 7-step mindset plan to craft a blueprint for a more comprehensive pain management. So by this I mean we were so in the conventional approach we saw that we have these medications and interventions plus sometimes physiotherapy. But if we integrate 5 other approaches, like one would be stress management, if we integrate diet and nutrition, if we focus on sleep, if we focus on exercise and movement, and if we focus on mind and body trap therapies, we have a 7-step plan. So usually what happens is when all these other pathways, all these interventions, medications, all these it's not answering, it's not a good answer to the situation, to the pain, then they would go, oh, let's go to a pain clinic, or let's refer them to a pain rehabilitation center, or let's see our other options. What I'm talking today will be, let's give them this approach. In the first place, when someone comes for a pain management, let's tell them that this is the available plan. Let's use it for everyone. So my primary focus here would be to tell you that pain is a complex, multifaceted, multifactorial psychopathology. It's not just the Cartesian model, that it's at best it's a very simple way to see pain. If there is a harm on your skin, there is a wire in your body that will carry that sensation to your mind, and your mind interpret it as pain. So at best it would be a very simplistic version of seeing what pain is. At worst it's wrong, it's simply wrong. So I will focus on a much more diverse model, which is a biopsychosocial model. In the biopsychosocial model, we will see that we will integrate whatever is happening in the conventional situation, just amalgamate it with other therapies and alternatives, and give it as a blueprint for a person who is going through chronic pain. By end of this presentation, I'm not recommending anything throughout this presentation. I will not be recommending something that this will be for someone. It's not a universal shoe that everyone will wear and reach to a pain-free mindset. It has to be personalized for everyone. I'm just saying that let's focus on a biopsychosocial model. Let's see that there is nociception, there is pain that we feel, that 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 is there, that there is an injury or harm in the body. Let's approach to it accordingly. And then that there are situations that it's not about that injury. Let's approach it in a different way. Let's give them all the options they have, the availability of those options, and the pain education for people. So that would be my entire focus throughout this presentation. And um, I will go through each of this plan, this mindset plan, this 7 mindset plan, each and every one. I will talk their um, about their scientific evidence behind every approach, their ups and downs. By ups and downs, I mean to what extent they are beneficial, at what point they stop working, or what are the side effects of some of them, and what would happen if we have all this given to a person going through a chronic pain at once, and then they see which one of these is working with which one of these approaches. So by a biopsychosocial model, I mean is, given that pain is has a multifactorial psychopathology, it also has an effect on every domain of life. So not only it's a physically debilitating situation, it also affects our psyche. It affects our stress, it affects our stress levels, it affects our mood, it affects our entire mental well-being. So that would be the psychological factor. Another factor would be the social factor. It secludes us from our friends, from family. Someone who has chronic pain will always be complaining about pain, won't be able to go all these family social friend gatherings. So there is all these domains that works reciprocally towards each other. So if pain has an effect on these situations should have an effect on pain as well. So we will be talking about these reciprocal effects of pain on these situations and these situations on pain. So that's where the word biopsychosocial model comes in. And we will be talking exclusively on these 7 pathways to manage chronic pain and how does it affect pain. I will, before I go there, I will stop sharing and ask anyone if there is any questions up until now. If I haven't elaborated on anything yet, just please go ahead, ask me any question you want, and that I'll go ahead.
Hi, Ramesh. I'm not sure if you answered this already, but what is the official definition of chronic pain? How is it measured?
Okay, the I told you chronicity comes in comparison with acuity. Okay, we only can say something is chronic if we can see something is acute. So if someone is enduring pain, experiencing, perceiving pain for 3 months, less than 3 months, that would be acute pain. For example, a broken leg, someone would feel pain for that. So if it shouldn't take over 3 months to heal. So normally, without any intervention, if it's gonna heal, it's gonna take less than 12 weeks. But if pain remains after 12 weeks, more than 12 weeks, then that's chronic pain. We defined it in the definitions as what's chronic pain, what's acute pain. Any other questions?
Just to elaborate, okay, as Ramish gave us the differentiation between acute and chronic, I'm just mindful the sessions are for yoga facilitators.
Yes.
So I think it will be helpful for them to understand. People will come, especially these sessions are for seniors. So seniors will come with description of pain, all different ways. So we need to acknowledge and understand that they are having pain. But then, what do you suggest? What should be their approach, like in terms of a senior coming in and complaining about pain? So you're giving them, like, I don't know whether this
Yes.
is already included part of your presentation
It
or
is
not.
actually included. It's
Okay, so I
actually
should
the
be
second
quiet
part
now.
of
I
my
think this is
my
where I'm very
presentation.
much interested for
Yes.
yoga facilitators
Yes.
because this is what they need to know.
Yes. I have a recipe for that. I have
Okay,
created a
good.
7-step recipe for that, and I will be talking about it just right now. If
Okay,
there's
good.
no any questions, I can go further with that.
Yeah, just one more thing. I'm reminding
Sure.
people once again in the chat. I still see people not writing down their information. Please make sure to write down your name, phone number, email address, and if you are a yoga facilitator or not, and also the name of the organization where you facilitate yoga sessions. Okay, go ahead.
So I said there would be seven approaches, a 7-step model that you can use for someone who comes. Specifically, the question that Sadia posed was that a person coming with pain. How do you know it's acute or chronic? So the first 2 steps would be for acute pain. Okay. The first 2 steps would be for acute pain, pain that has been there less than 3 months, medications and interventions. These 2 steps would be for acute pain. If someone is going through acute pain, some injury, and they are feeling pain for that, these are the best that would work. One would be medication. Okay, medication, sometimes it works and most of the time it doesn't work. So that's why I have this quote from a pain researcher here. It says, a prescription for a medicine that doesn't work is a prescription for harm. So when do medicines work? So when there is nociception, remember at definition, I said there is something called nociception, which is different from pain. Nociception is when there is harm or injury to a tissue or a body part or an organ. So that's when medications work, actually. If there is injury there, they actually numb or block those nerves, and or sometimes centrally, and that's how it works. But when doesn't it work? When there is chronic pain, medications doesn't work. When there is neuropathic pain, medications doesn't work. By neuropathic pain, when there is a damage to a nerve, that's a neuropathic pain. When there is nociplastic pain, it doesn't work. Where nociplastic pain would be an inflammation to the autoimmune system of the central nervous system. So this is a situation when medications won't work. So take our mind as an alarm system. Okay, so an alarm system would go off when there is forced entry to our houses. If sometimes if that alarm system goes faulty and it starts beeping once in a while here and there, it would be really um, debilitating for the people who are living in that house. So the same situation happens with our minds. And that situation is called central sensitization. Sometimes medications do that to a high level and strength of all these different medications that a person is using. Or sometimes there is these biochemicals released in our system, and which goes to basically to our immune system of our brain, and it creates a central sensitization. And that central sensitization will create the perception of pain in the body and mind when there is no harm or injury available. Remember that snake story I told you? That person went berserk thinking that there was a snake. But everything in that situation told that man that there is a snake there. But there wasn't. There wasn't. It was just a predictive model of the brain. This is just a central sensitization of the brain that happens and says that, oh, there is pain. You have to react or you're going to die. Sometimes chronic pain is as a result of the central sensitization in the brain. So what would be a good option for this central sensitization? A neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity can be initiated by all these mind-body therapies. Yoga is one of them. I have a specific slide for mind-body therapies that I will come, and we will talk about it later. But we are still on medications. So there are some medications that could be used for nociception, for acute pain, when there is injury. And there is a lot of side effects to these medications. And tapering medications would be, so one good advice, one good tip on pain would be, the recent research shows if someone is taking a pain medication, even if they are taking pain medication over the counter, or a health professional is prescribing that pain medication, instead of working with one pain medication and going up with the strength, up with the strength, and the body creating the tolerance, it would be much better to use 2 or more pain medications at the same time with lower strengths. One other thing with medication is the placebo effect. You have heard about the placebo effect. So there was a specific research on pain done and broadcasted by BBC Two in 2018. There was 2 groups of people. For one, they were giving pain medication. For the other, they were just giving a sugar pill, but they didn't tell them it's a sugar pill. So what happened is, at the end of the day, after that specific time period of the research, people who had chronic pain, debilitating chronic pain, using that pill, which is just sugar, nothing else, came up with very improved levels and charts to their pain levels. So that's what happened, and that's called the placebo effect. So sometimes the effect of pain medication on chronic pain would be similar to a placebo effect. So there's something else going on in the body. And there's also another side effect to these pain medications that are working on a central nervous system. There's the addiction part of these medications. And that's where tapering comes in. What tapering means is to go down on the level of pain medications day by day, day by day, day by day, so that at some point you can stop that pain medication without any side effects as an addiction. You remember there still is, there was, it started at some point, and it all started with pain medications. There's this epidemic of pain medication addiction, specifically in the US currently, or at some point came to Canada as well. You know the name fentanyl is a big problem right now. That's actually a pain medication. And the other one is oxy. Oxycodone was designed as a pain medication, and it created millions and millions of people addicted to pain medication. So pain medication would be one step in the approach, but you should know where it works and where it doesn't work. Okay, that's about pain. I'm going to interventions. By interventions, what do I mean by interventions? Interventions would entail the injections that the surgeon would give for pain, a nerve block, or a surgery. So these are interventions. I have a quote from a surgeon. Let's say the most rewarding aspect of being a surgeon is watching patients go pain-free without surgery. So that would be our main aim today. So these interventions are based on a biomedical approach that we talked, and it works in emergency situations when there's a broken bone, there's harm, something like that. The post hoc fallacy of interventions is, I'm going a little bit fast on these so that I could go to the others. The flawed belief in the society that people say, oh, this didn't work, that didn't work, medications didn't work, I have to go through surgery. They did this same placebo effect with surgeries, and they were called sham surgeries in a Dutch study. People improved just thinking that they went through surgery. So interventions work to a certain level. After a level, there is no, and there is also these risks for all these surgical and injection interventions. You should know its limitations, where it works and where it doesn't. So in order to know if someone is going for an intervention, a surgery for pain, they should they should ask these four questions. What are the benefits? What are the risks? Do I have any alternative to this intervention? And what if I do nothing for it? Okay, they should talk to their doctor or surgeon about all these questions before going to an intervention. Now we are going to the third part of our 7-step pain-free mindset, and this would be stress management. So as we talked earlier, the biology of pain is never straightforward. It's never that easy. So we talked about this biopsychosocial model and this prediction ability of our brain. So the perception of pain depends on so many factors. Okay, it's not just if there's injury and you see pain there, you feel pain, you perceive pain. It depends on our experience, it depends on the context, it depends on other factors, on the situation, on the environment, previous experiences, if we have gone through it, or what are we seeing. So pain would be a similar system to our stress system. So you see that we have the stress system, and we have evolved with the stress system as helping us survive and situations like if there is a lion chasing me, the stress system should activate to for me to survive. The same is with the pain system. If there is pain, I have to protect myself. So today you see, even if you have not a very good boss at work, that boss could activate your stress system. If you have a daughter, a teenage daughter, and it's hard to deal with her in your real life, that activates your stress system. So the pain system is something similar to that. Not only they are interrelated, pain system is something exactly like that. If there are certain firing networks of neurons that we perceive or we feel anger, fear, stress, depression, anxiety, and pain all together through these firing and wiring of these neurons. So so I won't go very technical due to time, but what I want to say is, so this is an interrelated system between stress and pain. Remember, if you have pain, your stress system would be activated. There would be a stress response towards it. The same is working the other way around. If your stress system is activated, if there's a stress response, the perception of pain will go up. Sometimes you will perceive pain that there is no physical harm or injury available, and there is a flare up of a chronic pain after a very long time. People will come and say, I was watching TV and I had a flare up and it's still going on. So there is a stress situation that they saw, that they went through, and there's a stress response towards it, and that stress response is increasing this perception of pain. Sometimes people, the same way that pain changes our mood, like taking us into a depression, into an anxiety, or into a fear situation, everything is it works the other way around. So the stress response actually is affecting our neuroimmune system and our perception of pain. So if a stress response is activating all these inflammatory responses and it works the other way around, if we reduce our stress levels, if there is a stress management available to the person, if the person is coming with a pain in your setting, at the setting that you're doing yoga or all these community activities, physical activities with them. So one thing that you should focus is stress management. There's all these stress management um, tips that you would know, and you would personalize it for someone. But I took a few names here. I wrote a few names here. I will not go into details. You would know much better details than me. But for example, there was a research saying that these relaxation response when someone sits down and starts using one single word. For example, in yoga, you see people saying, sitting very quietly, relaxing, and saying om, 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 like that. That actually reduces stress, and that stress reduces pain perception. All these breathing techniques that these are very, people should find their own way of breathing techniques, something that works for me in stressful situations. When I have anxiety, I do this 9 breathing follow-ups that goes this, like this. I take a small inhale like that, and then a much deeper one, and start exhaling slowly. So this works for me. This is a personalized way of me doing it, but it might differ from person to person. So this breathing techniques would work in stress management, and then helping with chronic pain as well. Grounding techniques. The grounding techniques is like when you are perceiving things around you, which grounds you, brings you at the moment right now. So that would be a grounding technique. For example, seeing 5 things that are around you, or smelling something that's right now there, listening to a stimulus of sound around the room, or touching something beside you, touching a person that's seeing, and all these, and the mindfulness techniques that Veronica will be talking about it next week. I wouldn't talk about it. Or yoga, different yoga modalities. It's not just one type of yoga. This is all different yoga modalities that would work for someone and wouldn't work for another person. So you have to change this modality for stress management. Or stress avoidance techniques. There are stress avoidance techniques like just removing some digital blue light from your life, or doing something better, going for a walk. These are all stress avoidance techniques. Stress avoiding techniques are so long, so many of them, but just see what is creating more stress in your life. For me, a personal experience is news. At some point, news was bringing so much stress in my life, and I now I avoid all sorts of news. I don't care about news. I don't want to know about it, what was the landslide in Mozambique 2 days ago. I don't want to stress about it. So just avoiding your the thing that's stressing you right now. That would be a very personal model. And relationships would help. Very healthy relationships and having routines helps with stress management. So in general, the third step after medication interventions for chronic, the first and most important would be stress management. We have talked a little bit over stress management. I'm being mindful of the time as well. Okay. The fourth one would be diet. So we have something in our body called a microbiome. A microbiome is all other organisms that lives mutually, very peacefully in our body, specifically bacteria, and you usually, mostly they live in our intestines, guts. So that is called a microbiome. So this microbiome comes together with our body to help us do a lot of things. For example, they help us digest things. They help us detoxify things that are coming from outside. It also regulates our immune and nervous system. Sometimes it prevents the growth of harmful bacteria. So the Human Microbiome Project was basically a big research project on this, and it came up with the new result, with this result, that in the 21st century disease, it's not communicable or infectious disease. This is the problem with diversity of the microbiome, the things that we are doing to our microbiome, and it's not helping. So what is affecting this microbiome is our poor diet, what we are entering into our bodies. You remember the saying that we are what we eat. So a poor diet, a poor quality food would be something with low variety, a lot of energy dense food products, like all these processed foods like burgers, sugary pastries, all these processed sugar. These are all a pro-inflammatory foods, and it creates a pro-inflammatory lifestyle. And by doing that, we are harming this microbiome. When this microbiome is harmed, there's a situation created called dysbiosis. Okay, so this dysbiosis itself leads to chronic pain. So this dysbiosis, this disruption of this microbiome in our gut creates chronic pain. So sometimes if someone is going through pain for a longer time, which turns over 3 months and it turns into chronic, sometimes it's not just a damage to our body or a tissue. It's just dysbiosis. We are killing the bacteria, the diversity of the beneficial bacteria that's helping us. There's also the diet creating obesity. Another epidemic in specifically in North America is obesity. So with obesity comes a lot of mechanical loads, which creates chronic pain. It creates reduced blood flow to certain parts of our body, which creates chronic pain. Widespread inflammation is another way. That's what obesity leads to, and central sensitization. All these leads to pain. So a good diet would be another step, a very good, doable step for a person going through chronic pain. So if you are telling them to have an anti-inflammatory diet, like don't eat refined or processed carbs, don't eat bad fats, omega-6 fats, like all these oils, cooking oils that we are using. Go with omega-3 fats, go with fish, go with olive oil. So we are consuming a lot of allergens like gluten and lactose. So these are all inflammatory diet. Sometimes remove them. There is another thing called polyamines. All these Coca-Cola, Fanta, fizzy drinks, juices, they have all these processed foods that we have, that we drink throughout the day. These are killing the microbiome. These are creating dysbiosis, and at some point it will lead to chronic pain. The good thing about this diet and microbiome is the moment you start changing, shifting to a healthy anti-inflammatory diet, everything is reversed. You'll get rid of that chronic pain. So go for a rainbow diet, a variety of colors in your diet, vegetables, fruits, do hydration, get vitamins, do intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, at least we should give our God a 12-hour break every day. There should be a period of time that we don't eat for 12 hours, and that could be sleep, do anything, drink water, drink green tea, but just don't eat, give it a break. Now I'm going to the fifth step, and that's sleep. A full night's sleep is the most powerful elixir of wellness and vitality. So if we are talking about our well-being, sleep would be the bedrock, the foundation. Okay? Sleep would be the foundation, and the three pillars would be diet, exercise, and connections. So this is the pyramid. This pyramid that you see here, the foundation is sleep. The three pillars would be diet, exercise, and your connections, and that would form your a good well-being. So what would a good, and you see in front of sleep, I have written 7 to 9. So that's the amount of sleep we actually need based on research and evidence. That's what we actually need for sleep. So tell your clients who come for chronic pain to work on their sleep, because sleep helps to learn and memorize. It helps with your emotional circuits. It will help for you to dream and be more creative. It will help your immune system. It will help your metabolic and hormonal system. It will boost your stress management. It will diversify and nourish your microbiome. So there is something called lymphatic system. This is the lymphatic system of the brain. So what sleep does to our brain is it activates this lymphatic system during sleep. So every bad connection during the day that we had, like our emotional response, a stress response, a metabolic invariability, all these situations during sleep, these connections are detached. So sleep helps with that. So with bringing this, having a 7 to 9 hours of sleep will just turn around that chronic pain perception around. So to have a good sleep, for the American Association of Physicians has a first line intervention for sleep, and that is called CBTI, and that's that is cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia. So there is no medication. There's a lot of medications available. Don't use them. There's side effects. There's no good pain medication available in the world right now. Sometimes people with age could use melatonin, but there's no pain medication for that. That's a no-no. So CBTI works. That's a first line for sleep initiation and sleep management. Meditation helps with sleep. People would do by themselves, or sometimes they can do it online. Bathing, taking a warm bath or a shower, a warm shower before going to sleep helps most of the time. Sleep hygiene is something that you should have in order to achieve this level of sleep, and that would be creating a routine for sleep, avoiding naps, long naps during the day, and having a little bit of exercise, physical movement during the day. So that will create sleep. Okay. Having a sleep will create all these connections in the mind and avoid and detach all these bad connections coming from a stress, from pain, from metabolic situations, and detach them. So sleep is another approach for achieving a pain-free mindset, and another step towards tackling chronic pain. So another sleep hygiene would be having a good diet, not eating after 5, 6, at least 4 hours before going to sleep, not eating a heavy meal or anything at all. You can have water or tea, green tea, but not no caffeine, no fizzy drinks, no bad diet. Start initiating sleep in a quiet environment. And one of the most important things in this basket that I would have to offer is a digital detoxification. Just avoid any blue light before going to sleep. The sixth one would be exercise. So the old belief was about pain was if someone is having chronic pain, they should rest, they shouldn't move, and that would help a lot. They shouldn't move. But the new research shows no, 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 no. Any kind of physical activity is better than rest. Do some kind of physical activity. Anything. I have seen people with obesity, chronic pain, that they cannot move, but actually their pain rehabilitation centers give them like hand cycles doing this, at least having some physical activity. It helps. This is the new evidence from research that shows physical activity, at least a movement, helps with chronic pain. It creates sleep routine, sleep hygiene. It helps a small bits of activity and movement, helps with inflammation, that's the ongoing inflammation in the body that's creating that chronic pain. It helps with mood. We talked about the reverse effects of pain on mood and mood on pain. So if you have a better mood, you'll have a better perception, a positive perception of pain. It will help with your pain. So it will better the perception of pain, movement. So building muscle, sometimes that comes with movement and exercise, it releases all these chemicals into the body and which goes to the brain, which helps with the perception of pain. Okay, and there's also the satisfaction and reward system brain that works with this perception of pain after movement. So movement would also have an effect on your diet. It will have an effect on your stress management. It will have an effect on your sleep. So it's an interrelated situation with all these steps that I'm proposing for chronic pain management. So there are some forms of exercise that someone could do, like stretching, balancing, strengthening, aerobic. Stretching would be yoga. Yoga would come under stretching or balancing, and aerobic would be walking, swimming, some kind of movement. And this fear of avoiding any movement, or the idea that movement would hurt the chronic pain, is false. There is no evidence for that. It was a fixed false belief of the past. It's not. And a good way would be to start slow and low and keep up with that. And a breathing technique would help with it. Joining a group would help with movement. Adding music to your situation while doing any kind of movement or exercise would, or having a counselor to talk with it, helps definitely. The last step in chronic pain management would be the mind-body interventions. By mind-body interventions, what I'm talking is what I mean is interventions that influence our thinking, not our physical situation, that influence our thinking, should be the first line imparted to the patient at the same time with medications. If someone comes with pain to any setting, a community setting, a health setting, an emergency setting, what we offer shouldn't be only medications or interventions. What we offer should be an amalgamated of all these other steps that I told you with these mind-body interventions that's influencing our thinking. And what it does is it provides a personalized care format. For example, someone would go with mindfulness and medication. That works for them. For someone, it won't. For someone, it would be a yoga and hypnosis and journaling. That would be it. They won't even need any intervention or any type of medication. And combining these mind-body interventions with all these other elements that I talked about, for example, diet, stress management, exercise, sleep, if you're combining them with these, you will have much better outcome of overcoming chronic pain. And what I started my talk was that there is not a universal shoe that everyone would wear and will go to success and a pain-free mindset. It is this availability of all these options that's there, that they know about it, it's offered to people, and they take it and personalize it and see what's working for them. And pain education is one of them. Okay. Physiotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, dialectic behavior therapy, mindfulness, acupuncture, yoga, chiropractic, osteopathy, hypnosis, journaling, massage therapy. These are all of the names of mind-body interventions that you could either do with someone or you could do it with yourself and create a personalized version of overcoming chronic pain. And I only took the names of the ones that I found scientific evidence and proof for, and I'm put it here. But there is so many others, and I'm not recommending any specific one or anything or promoting anyone, but I'm just telling that there is plethora of scientific proof and evidence about that. So I will stop talking by saying that just be aware of the available options and education that is happening there, and helps a lot. And based on my time, I think that would be it. Thank you very much. What would be your questions?